Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. And, you know, every year that 9/11 hits, you know, it always brings back memories. I was a head coach at Fordham at 9/11, and, you know, our team and our staff lived through those events. And we lost one of the best kids I've ever had the privilege of coaching, a guy named Nick Brandemarty. So every time 9/11, I always think of the team we had at Fordham and Nick Brandemarty and his family. And, you know, it's still, it feels like it's yesterday. And so I just want to let all those guys at Fordham know every year I still think of them and what we were through and the loss that we suffered together. You know, like I've shared before, my sister worked in the second building at the Trade Center, and so I always think of her in this day as well. So we'll move on to football, but always need to recall 9/11 and all the people it impacted and our time at New York when we all lived through it. So I'm not going to get into weather reports. I know Ron has handled all that, so I'll just talk about the you know, first of all, the Towson game. You know, right now we're 2-0, which is as good as you can be after 2 games. I think every game we've found a way to win, but there's been things that have been exposed, and we've worked hard at practice to try to correct those things. And this is a week that if you don't get it corrected, it'll be exposed and it'll cost you. So certainly, BC is an excellent football team. They're 2-0. They finished last year as one of the hottest teams in the ACC. They won 5 of their last 7. They've won 7 of their last 9. Right now they're averaging over 58 points a game and over 600 yards. Every year, BC is one of the most physical offensive lines we'll play. They're big, they're strong, they move people off the ball. I think the running back, A.J. Dillon, might be the best running back we face this year. I haven't seen them all, but it's hard to imagine we're going to face many better than him. He can run around you, he can run through you, he's hard to tackle. And he's the guy that makes them go. Their tight end, Sweeney, might be the best tight end in the conference. I think he's a pro. Athletic, a physical point of attack blocker. At receiver, they're very improved, I think, from a year ago. You know, Smith runs all their reverses. The Miller guy is a very, very good player as well. And, you know, I'm sorry, Michael Walker, and then Kobe White. Has really showed up on film as well. So those 3 guys are all guys that can beat you, and they have a different skill set. Walker's also an excellent punt returner, kick returner. And, but a lot of it, besides all those things, is just I think their quarterback has really improved. We played him last year in one of his first starts, and they've done a great job with him. He's a much more accurate quarterback. He knows the offense better. I really think their offensive coordinator, Scott Loeffler, is one of the more underrated coordinators in the conference. I think he does a great job of getting matchups and creating all different formations and creating extra gaps. And, you know, he's also the quarterback coach, and it's very obvious on film how improved their quarterback is. I mean, he's much more accurate. He just looks more comfortable. And because of that, BC is more than just defending the run now. Their play-action game is excellent. Defensively, they're always one of the best defenses in the ACC. A year ago, they had a defensive end that I wish wouldn't have come back, Landry, and this year I was hoping Zach Allen wouldn't come back. But he is certainly, he's a pro. He's going to be a pro. He'll probably be a high draft pick. He's physical. He's very hard to move. I think he's developed and he's become a better pass rusher than a year ago. And then the other defensive end, Ray, has kind of taken the place of Landry. And he played quite a bit against us a year ago and was a good player as well. Their defensive tackles are, you know, they're all 305, 310 pounds. They hold the point of attack. The linebackers are extremely instinctive. I mean, this is a very older defense. They're starting 8 seniors and 2 juniors. So these are guys that have played a lot of football. The 2 safeties, Harris and Dennis, are both projected pros. Those guys were, one of them was all conference a year ago, and I think they're both good players. They got good ball skills. And the corners are new as starters, but they've all played. They were in the nickel package a year ago. So this is a very experienced defense. And BC is a good football team. Steve always preaches a physical brand of football, and their football team is very much like his personality, very kind of in your face and physical, and that's how they play. So this is, the level rises up, and we're on national television, but we're 2-0 as well, and our guys are excited to start ACC play. Any questions?
You mentioned the things that have been exposed and that you've worked hard to correct. How difficult has it been to work to correct them with 2 fewer days and now, I guess, 2 fewer hours?
But anytime when you're younger, every time you play a game, your learning curve is so much higher. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Sam Hartman now has 2 full games, so he's learning so much more than a fifth-year senior would learn after 2 games. I think it'll help that we get Cam Glenn back this week. We're very optimistic that we're going to get Amari back. Just we had guys because we were thin playing too many reps. And now we've got a little bit more depth coming back, and I think we're getting healthier. And, but yeah, you'd like to have more time, but it is what it is. The schedule's the schedule. We knew when the season started that there'd be 4 days between games, and so we've done a lot of walkthroughs and a lot of mental stuff and a lot of film watching, and BC has the same amount of time. And I'm sure when they watch their film, they don't feel they're playing perfect games as well.
Go ahead. What conversations have you had with the defense, being that you defended the run pretty well, but in the first 2 games you've allowed 626 passing yards?
We told them to cover better. It's a lot of things. We've missed a lot of sacks. One of the touchdowns we gave up the other day, we had a free blitzer in the backfield, and then the second blitzer didn't contain, and that allowed a back to get open against the defensive end. And so, whenever you don't play well in a certain aspect of the game, it's always more than just the secondary. We've got to do a better job in the secondary with eye discipline. At times our eyes aren't in the right place, and we've learned some hard lessons that way. We've got to do a better job with containment of the quarterback. I think there's times if a team doesn't break contain. And so there's some fundamental things that we've got to get better at. And it's 2 games, but we've got to get it fixed. And I think the message is that we're capable of playing better. These are why the breakdowns are happening, and then we try to coach them out of it, and hopefully we improve at it.
Conversely, have you been encouraged by the early season play, by your linebackers and stopping the run game, knowing, of course, that that's going to be tested a lot Thursday night? Yeah,
I think it's a little bit, you have a team, Towson, that had been balanced, and to me they came out saying I don't even know if they tried to run the ball against us. And when they did, they averaged, 2 yards or 3 yards, they hardly averaged 2 or 3 yards a carry with scrambles. And, we got a lead, and they become one-dimensional, and they threw the ball well, so there's no reason to get back to it. Tulane's a team that likes to run the ball. And they came out against us throwing it. So BC is not a team that you're going to dictate that to. How well we're stopping the run will get really challenged this week. BC is not a team that says, well, you're defending us this way, so we're going to throw it 60 times. It's very much a hard hat mentality, and if you put an extra guy in the box, they're going to put an extra tight end in the box, and they're going to line up with a lot more condensed sets, and they're going to make your secondary tackle. And that's where they get a lot of their big plays, is they're able to kind of create edges and make balls bounce, and then you get Dylan matched up on a corner or a safety. So we're going to have to tackle really well this week.
I know you didn't want to talk about the weather. I'm not going to ask you specifically about the weather, but
you're going to ask me about the weather.
No. Are you happy to still have the chance to have a game with the national spotlight on ESPN?
Yeah,
and a nearly sold out crowd.
We want to play the game. It's just a decision of, is it safe? Is it prudent? And we've been studying the weather all week, and weather is unpredictable and can change. And so, you know, if you'd asked me last night if I thought we were going to play the game, it was probably doubtful. And then there was a change in the weather report that it looks like that we can do it in a safe way for our players, BC's players, and our fans. And that's something we're going to keep evaluating. So, I mean, we want to play the game. We came in Saturday night. We worked all night. We worked Sunday. We've done all the prep. We've done all the practice. You know, you don't want to go through all that and then not play the game. And we're ready to play the game. But there's more to consider. You know, we don't play in a dome. And there's a major weather pattern that is affecting all the Carolinas and all the Southeast. And we just got to monitor it and make sure it's the right thing to do.
Dave, where were you on 9/11?
At 9/11, I was the head football coach at Fordham University in the Bronx in New York City. And we were getting ready to play Columbia that week. And we were watching film, and somebody said, we heard that a plane had hit the First Trade Center. And so we, at the time, you know, they thought it was pilot error or whatever, and immediately we stopped watching the film. And we turned on the TV. And then a little bit after 9 o'clock, I saw a plane hit the second World Trade Center. And my sister worked in the 92nd floor. And I mean, that time is frozen. That, you know, she usually got to work. She got a commuter train in. She usually got to work like at 8:55 and was at her desk at 9. And you know, it was just, I had my office phone and my cell phone, and I just kept speed dialing her on both phones for the next 2 hours. And all the cell phones were jammed up, and I really thought we had lost my sister Kathy. And then my sister from Virginia, who was at Virginia Tech, actually got a call into her and called us about 11:30 noon that my sister's commuter train was 10 minutes late that day, and she saw what was going on, and she got the last train out of Ground Zero. You know, and it was just, you know, we had a lot of players at Fordham that were Florida, and they didn't know what was going on. They were scared to leave their dorms. And we had a long meeting that day, and we were playing Columbia that week. And I believe the two schools that lost the most alumni during the 9/11 attacks, I believe, were Fordham and Columbia. And that might not be accurate, but that's what we were told. And you know, I lost a former player of mine, Nick Brandemarty, who was just one of the great kids I ever got to coach. Just one of those kids that got the big picture, and he worked in the First Trade Center. And but there was a lot of Fordham alums that I knew and former football players that were at alumni functions, and it was just, it was a really sad day. And it's still, every time it pops up, it brings back the memory of being with our players at Fordham. And you know, in some ways it bonded us. You know, the sadness of losing someone that was so close to us. And every time, like even down in Tulane, one of my former captains at Fordham, a guy named Chris Rhodes, stopped by the hotel and visited, and right away you start talking about Nick Brandemarty. So it's one of those things that, you know, will never go away, especially living in New York at the time.
Other questions for Coach?
What did y'all do the rest of that season?
Well, it was a little bit, the fact that we were making all of these decisions of whether to play a game or not today was a little eerie, because when 9/11 happened, President Bush at the time said, you know, that you should live your life normally and continue life, and this is what the terrorists want us to do, is alter our lives. And so the Fordham-Columbia game was like the last game canceled. That we, kind of as a show of New York strength and solidarity, we're going to play the game. And then as it went on, it just became obvious that that was not the appropriate thing to do. You know, but we ended up having a good season that year. And all year we wore the NYPD hats or the fire department hats. And we had a guy on our staff as a volunteer who worked for the New York Police Department. And it kind of became a little bit of a bonding experience for us. But we ended up, that was the year we ended up turning the program But the whole year, I mean, those kids definitely played with a heavy heart.